All right, everybody. Today we have another special monthly guest for SaaS Talks from Lead to Close. We have Ofir Zan. He's a chosen salesperson. And for those of you that don't know what that is, it means he chose the career. The career didn't choose him by accident. He didn't fall into it. And he's also the VP of Global Sales at BuildDots, which is a SaaS company, I believe, in the construction management software or construction management industry, if I'm not mistaken. The topic that we'll talk about today, which I think a lot of salespeople can appreciate, is objection handling. And the reason why I'm saying a lot of salespeople can appreciate is not because that's a classic sales topic, but because there's a lot of people now that are dealing with buyers, stakeholders that are pushing back because of economic times and budget cuts. And so how do we handle that? So that's what we'll talk about. I'm going to pass the mic to Ofir. He's going to kick us off, and then I have my questions. I'll stay true to this episode and keep it under 30, 20 minutes or so. So Ofir, nice to have you.
Awesome. Thank you, Mo. Thank you so much for having me. I think we can start it off by maybe 1 minute about the current economy and the situation of where we are. So, naturally, we confront more objections in these turbulent times. And I chose this topic specifically because overcoming tough objections, everything is changing now. Literally everything is changing. So before even going into the details of it, I think it's important to think about the classic approach to overcoming sales objections, how we used to do that, and how it become less relevant nowadays. So, I thought about this topic before coming here, and I think that humanizing our approach is something that we should consider more than ever. And because it's a new reality, and this new reality can be relevant for the next 2-ish, 3 years, maybe more. So that's how I wanted to start it off today.
Yeah. So when you say humanizing, tactically speaking, what is the non-humanizing way of handling an objection, and what is the humanizing way?
Excellent. So the non-humanizing way is trying to, take control over the conversation. Like obviously listen, acknowledge the objection and so forth. And how we used to do that is to go back and refer to the value, right? The value from speaking with other stakeholders. We saw that we solve 1, 2, 3, we generate X and Y in revenue. This is why you need a solution. The cost of doing nothing, right? You start to speak very logically about why you should do it now and try to overcome the objection. If they bring up a competition, someone that is doing it for less money, so that you start to, we're not the lower the better, compare, bring some proof points, case studies, and so forth. That's the less humanized approach from my perspective. I think we should treat everything now with a lot more empathy, because the economy is tough and companies are struggling. And it will basically give us more points, because overcoming objection is very much about relationship. It's not just about being smart and saying the right words.
So the non-humanizing approach would be the classic, you get a little bit of an objection, whatever it is, price, this, that, and then you, instead of sort of empathizing, you're like acknowledging, yeah, I realize you have this objection, and then we do this and we have this rewards, and you start dumping sort of value adds that like car salespeople do this a lot, right?
That's a foul, by the way. I mean, start to dropping features and benefits. That's a foul in objection handling in general.
Correct.
But I think even the logical approach of listening, acknowledging, rephrasing, trying to get to the root cause of the objection, and then bringing like proof points so that you can justify the investment in your solution, is a little bit, and I will be cautious here, but a little bit less relevant.
Okay, so let's dive into that. So let's talk about the humanizing approach, and let's talk about specifically 2023. Obviously, we're not going to talk about objections for the year 2000. What is a common objection that you're seeing now in this year, and that you think is going to stay for a while? And tactically, how do you handle it? Maybe one particular objection that you're noticing. Maybe it's price. Maybe it's whatever it is.
Okay. So to answer that, I think that it's important to bring up the 5 categories of objections. So we have need, everything around change management. Then price, obviously, is a very common one. Relationship or trust, these are quite similar, quite the same. 4th category is authority. You're not speaking with the right person, it's not my budget, we need to run it by the CTO and so forth. And the last but not least is everything related to the product or the service that you're providing. It might be that they're using an alternative solution or not a product that, I don't trust the tech that you guys are building. I don't believe that you will deliver what you are saying. A situation that we face in BuildDots many times because we're disrupting everything regarding to fully automated progress tracking in construction sites. So sometimes they literally don't believe that a product can do that. Now, the most the objection that I encounter the most nowadays is around basically two. It will be around the need, and the second one will be around price. But it's not exactly price, it will be more about around budget. And I believe that budget is not necessarily related to price. Budget is more related to the relationship that you've established with the prospect. But these are the most common ones. To answer your question.
So let's talk on need. That's a common objection you're saying. When you say need, what are the words that the prospects are saying that is an objection around need?
Yeah, so the need might be, I definitely see the value in your solution. As of now, it's definitely solving a problem for us, but I'm not sure. We definitely have more things to handle. So let's catch up in three months.
Got it. Yeah, so I've had a few A's tell me that they're saying this is important, but not as important as everything else we have. Now, a follow-up question to that is, two follow-up questions. One, are you seeing that objection come at the beginning of the call, middle of the call, or the tail end of the call? Or even after the call, like after the call is complete and then that following up with the prospect? When are you seeing that happen?
So usually the beginning. I think it's a typical, pushback, especially if you're not intrigued, if you're trying to positioning a problem that the prospect is not convinced about, or it's not even related to your product. It's not painful enough that you want to solve it. That's all about change, right? We're in the business of change management, and sales is all about change. So mostly the beginning, and at the beginning is good because it's good for disqualification fast. You want to disqualify and move on if needed. And it's good because if you overcome that, sales is a transfer of confidence, and addressing and overcoming objections can build trust and credibility with the customer and can ultimately lead to a successful sale. This is why it's good to have it upfront. And most of the need objections that I see are coming in the first or second call.
So like the discovery or the demo, this first demo.
Discovery never ends. Discovery throughout the entire sales process, but yeah, usually during the demo, before you start or right after. Yeah, I get your point, but we cannot afford it right now. Before you even discuss numbers. We cannot afford it.
All right. So that's a common one I'm hearing also. And you were talking about price or budget. What are the words that the prospects are saying around that you're seeing?
So let's try to think about something that, I like what you guys can do, but I just cannot afford it at this time. Or, we have some budget cuts, and justifying an investment in every new solution that is not must have will be impossible. I need to run it by the CEO, by the CFO. Then they speak about authority, right? It's not me. I'm the VP of sales, but I need to run it by the CFO, CEO, COO. We have a coalition. We have a board meeting to approve all new vendors, or excuses around that. So it's mostly. Yeah.
How many times do you actually think that when they say, "Oh, it's the CEO that I have to run it by," it's just like almost like a lazy response? Like they don't actually have to run it by. Like they do, but they don't really. They're just not sold on it, and it's just like a bullshit reason. Like, do you find that that's true, or do you find that when they say I need to run it by the board, the CFO, et cetera, they're actually telling the truth?
Even if you change the words, the title CEO to my colleagues on my team, it's still important enough that you will equip them with the ammunition they need in order to sell the business case internally. At the end, think about it more. They need to own the business case. It's theirs. And they need to invest. Even if the investment is 5 or 10K and not necessarily 50 or 150K, it's still something that they need to justify.
Yeah.
That there is a need, and there is a coalition of people supporting them with the decision. So I think that, in many cases, people use it as an excuse. Having said that, these days, everything is tighter. I just met a CEO of a successful startup here in Tel Aviv, and he told me that we used to have budget for the IT, R&D, and DevOps team. They could basically buy themselves without running everything by me. And as of now, for every spend above $5,000, I want them to show me a presentation, just in order for them to justify it to themselves. That's what he told me. And I agree. So processes have changed.
Is that because just a fear that the whole world's coming down and crashing with the economy? Or so is it more of just like this major preventative, like when you see someone running down the street, you're like, you're not paying attention. But when you start seeing 5 people run down the street, you're like, you start running too. And you're just running. You don't know why you're running, but you're seeing everyone's running. I almost feel like that's what's happening, at least part of the industry. These founders and CEOs are seeing all these companies like freak out, lay off, and they're like, all right, I guess we should be doing it too. And they're just following the crowd. Do you feel like that's happening?
I mean, smart company founders won't be panicked by the situation. It's, and you're a business owner yourself. You're expected to be responsible these times. If you know that the economy is, if there are some frictions and uncertainty, and the times are weird, and CEOs are expected, and also VCs and board groups are putting a lot of pressure on the CEO just to look at the budget, look at the runway, look at the time we have, make sure you're now more focused on efficiency, and so forth. So it's not a matter of panic. People are running, so I should do the same. And I've met a few tech entrepreneurs, and that's basically what they told me. We're expected to be more responsible now, and that's exactly what we're doing. So no panic involved.
So it's interesting, and then we're digressing a little bit, but I just find this interesting because they're expected to be more responsible, which tells me, and I've seen it before all these crazy mass layoffs, they were irresponsible with the money. They were raising $13 million, $15 million Series A, no problem, but they were just like splurging. I know this one particular company, really well known in the industry, took their entire sales team, I don't know how many people, but had like this crazy offsite in hotels, dinners and all these things. And then they laid off their employees like the day after or the week after. And I feel like you're saying they have to be more responsible, meaning they weren't responsible in the past. And yeah, I don't know. I digress. It's sort of an observation in my head.
You did. So I'm not sharing the same feelings as you, and I will give you an example, from my own experience. I hired 30 people in 16 months in order to scale. It means, there are 6 managers under me and 30 people in 8 countries. And the reason we did it is because we needed to scale. We have very ambitious growth targets. So the budget wasn't, it wasn't niche, right? You need to find the best people to bring them on board, to onboard them fast, and in order for them to start deliver. As a company, we were very responsible from day one. There were never like big parties or outstanding spends that we cannot justify to ourselves, and we never did it. But when the time came, people now started to look about everything, and growth is not necessarily the #1 KPI that you should hit. Maybe it's now more about efficiency, or increase your margins, or profitability, as everybody likes to speak right now. So some companies, there are companies, not all apples are okay, and some companies definitely spend investors' money. But I think that being more responsible now basically means you have what you have. Let's make sure that we're maximizing that, and that's it.
Yeah. Okay, cool. So let's go back into turn back into our lane, because it's just interesting. But all right. So we talked about the need. I see the value of this, but let's look at this maybe next quarter, in 3 months, whatever it is. Then the other objection is price.
Budget.
Yeah, budget.
Yeah.
How do you handle the first part? What words do you use to respond to? I see the value of this, but maybe let's come back to this in next quarter, maybe in 6 months.
Yeah. Okay. So going into in practice, just before we speak about the framework, I would say, many times people forget to ask a follow-up question just to ensure they understand the objection. In many cases, and I saw that on recording, I saw that on price negotiation and so forth. There is an objection, but the root cause or the real objection is not exactly what you understood. You're allowed to ask a follow-up just to clarify what we need to overcome. Okay, so a practical framework that I like to follow is known as the 3 Fs. F #1 is the feel. You need to acknowledge. F number 2 is the felt, and F number 3 is the found. Feel something like, understand how you feel. Many of our customers have felt the same way. I won't go into another big topic which related to body language and tone, everything that is so important and so powerful when you need to overcome objection. This is a side we can find another time to speak about that. The felt one is, it will sound something like, I can understand how you feel. Many of our customers have felt the same way, meaning it's not we've spoken about the felt one, so I can understand why you would have that concern. It is a valid point. This is not the first time, basically, that I hear it. Okay, so you give them the confidence that you're not the first one to bring that up. And found is more related to how you're going to take control over the conversation, how you're going to take the objection, turn it into something more positive. And obviously, you can bring up some, justifications here, some case studies. People really like to listen to third-party stories, other people who had this thought, and then, how it works for them.
Got it. So prospect says, yeah, I see the value of this, but we're gonna wait till 6 months. You're gonna say something like, I totally understand where you're coming from. It makes sense. A lot of our customers, I hear this from some of our customers now. But what we found is, what would be the word? Like, what would you say?
Yeah, I will go back, restate the value that is agreed. And by the way, if there is no agreed value, the conversation is very tough. So you need to make sure that he acknowledged, and you can restate the value, try to use as monetary, monetary returns if possible. That's really powerful, because that's something that they can sell internally. And then you're also allowed, going back to the humanized approach. I mean, be flexible with the payment options. So definitely bring that up early. You don't need to negotiate with them in order to offer flexible payment options. If cash is an issue, you can be more flexible on your front. And then it's absolutely fine, and I do it all the time with executives. We speak about financial concerns, we speak about profitability of projects, we speak about pipeline that they have. We kind of try to align the fact that they want to shelve my solution for a while. I try to understand the root cause of it. If the root cause is cash, I'm going to speak with them about cash in their business. So I had a conversation with an MD of a construction company, and he told me, out of the 20 active projects that we have, 4 of these might not be profitable at all. Think about it. They're starting projects and they're going to lose money on these. So you cannot just, put your heads on your ears and ignore it. If that's the case, let's see how we can definitely help. Let's see if we can be super aggressive in terms of pricing for these specific projects in order to support them and minimize the losses. So I wouldn't run away from that. People try to overcome and move on. Oh, here's my answer. We nailed it. Let's move on. What's your next one? Let's stay. Maybe there is something deeper than just, let's wait with that for 6 months.
Yeah.
You start to get this relationship, and then you gain your professional trust and personal trust, and you become the person they want to buy from or they want to work with.
Yeah. So let's say you share the found part, right? You share a similar case study or a similar story from a customer.
Yeah.
You're done sharing that little case study. Do you just stay quiet? Do you ask a follow-up question? And if so, what is that question?
Good. So I like you said that, because I think that intentional pause and quiet are very powerful and very important as part of our ability to overcome objections, because quiet basically means that we are comfortable. You and I can be quiet for 3 seconds and nothing will happen. The conversation will stay here. We'll still ask those hard questions and so forth. And of course, after sharing, it's a give and take game. So after sharing something that is valuable to my counterpart, to my prospect, I will definitely ask for feedback with an open-ended question. I don't just, does that make sense? Yes, no. I will avoid these type of questions. And you know that we've spoken about tactics. You've spoken about tactics with other people many times. I'll ask for feedback and see how I can turn, again, the issue that they have into something positive that is very much related to them. And you won't win any fight, but even if if you didn't overcome something completely, and there is still strong intention to wait with the decision, I would be respectful of that, and try to set a cadence so that we can follow up on things.
So what's a open-ended feedback question that you would ask?
Oh, there are many. When presenting, let's try to frame it. I don't know, maybe when the time we're presenting, we ended up presenting the product. This is always an interesting situation, right? You just ended up your demo, 1 minute, 2 minutes, 5 minutes, and then you're expecting some sort of feedback. So one of the questions that I like the most is, what did you like the least?
About the case study that you shared with them?
About whatever you presented. What did you like? Usually it should come after a demo, because there are a few aspects that they can choose. And this question is usually surprising people. They were like, the least, and then they start thinking, right? Start smiling. So you achieve this time that you want, and then they bring you actually the only piece that is really valuable, the only thing that you should understand in order to progress with the sale.
Yeah.
So this question is very powerful, and this is an open-ended question.
So you would they say an objection, a concern about the value, but we're just doing sort of this recap. See the value, but we're going to put it on the shelf for 6 months, 3 months. You address that by validating their feelings and making them realize that it's a normal thing and you've been hearing it. You then show them what you found, which could be a case study or a similar customer story. And then you pause, let's just say for 3 seconds, 5 seconds, whatever it is. Then you follow that up with, what do you like the least?
No. So sorry for confusing. And then you forgot another piece. There is a piece of flexibility, right? Being flexible and align as much as possible to the business situation that they're experiencing. I won't ask a question. I will let the silence do the work. By being silent, someone will start to speak.
So what if they say this, right? So you show it to them, you're silent, they're like, okay, that's helpful, Ofir. Yes, just reach out to me in 3 months.
Yeah, that's obviously tough, but I will definitely ask, so what do you expect to happen between now and this time? Why 3 months? What will change till then? And then I will definitely ask the harder question. What will happen? An example of, tell me, by not fixing this problem, what will be the cost in your productivity, for instance, if we speak about construction sites? Or how strong is your commitment to fixing the issue? Can we agree on the issue that we just discussed, and how strong? I will try to go into the personal level and make the other person feel that they're missing out because of fear or whatever. But I won't push too hard. Yeah. As I said before, there is a threshold that you should not cross these days. You can't be too pushy, too hard. This is why I believe that everything regarding overcoming tough objection is now changing, but that's subjective, my belief.
I feel like also, at least in my experience, there are, whether it's a CMO, CEO, or a VP, whatever executive rank there is, and they're looking into a solution, a software, there are 1 or 2 scenarios that I think is happening. Either one, it is the trigger came from the person that's on the call, the main person, right? They're the ones like, we need this, and now I'm going to go and do my due diligence. And the other scenario is
someone at the back.
It's telling them, go do this. And so I think it's important to find out, at least from my experience, to find out who's calling the shots. Not necessarily who's making the decision, not about decision maker. Whose idea was it to begin with? Because once you find that out, then if it's the CEO's idea, but the VP is just doing their job, then it's going to be a very tough. You're not going to connect. You're not going to be able to resonate with the VP because they don't give a shit. They just care about their job.
Yeah. So yeah, if you've been assigned to find a software and the initiative was by someone else, by the way, not that common. I think that in many cases, people are evaluating their own solution for their department and so forth. But if that's the case, you should definitely involve all relevant stakeholders. You have to make sure that you're speaking directly with the people, because the sales is happening while we're not there. We all know that, right? Yeah. It's not on the call, it's happening after, and someone needs to sell your business case internally. And if that's the case, I would, if there is someone pushing back at the back, like pushing back behind the scene, you want to make sure first you get access to this person, but in many cases it won't be It won't be easy, right? It won't give you access to the single person that especially doesn't like your solution or yourself. And then teach your champion, or not your champion, might be just a coach, but teach your champion to sell on your behalf. So teach them how to tell a story with a solid business case, with all the numbers. I had many situations when the deal was, very promising, and I felt, there was like a strong gut feeling that I need to speak with my champion before this big meeting, like approving everything. And it usually used to happen like Friday afternoon, taking them offline, WhatsApp them, and then call them. It can be like here because people believe that companies are tracking their whatever. And, just asking, what can go wrong on Monday? What can go wrong? And this simple question with empathy, with genuine curiosity to understand what can go wrong, you find out things that will kill your deal on Monday. And I had so many times when a deal was saved just by speaking with the champion at the right time and coming prepared to this big meeting with all other stakeholders that you don't know.
I have 3 follow-up questions for you because we're talking on the topic of stakeholders. One,
okay,
how have you gotten access to? How do you get access to the stakeholder? You're talking to the main person that scheduled the discovery call, that showed up for whatever it is, right? Whether it's from outbound activity or inbound. How do you get access to other people? How do you know if there's? That's the first question. Second question is, how do you find out who's pushing back, if there is anyone pushing back? So I'll start with those 2 questions because I have like a few follow-ups.
Okay, so these 2 are interesting, and there are different methods from my perspective. So getting access to other stakeholders, if it's throughout the sales cycle, and you need someone with more authority, you need to access the DM, you need to speak with the CFO, whatever. Many cases, what worked for us, I'm not sure it will be valid in 2023 as it used to be, but definitely use like the executive relationship. You want executive alignment. So I'm going to bring up someone from my side. I'm expecting you to bring someone from your side. In order for us to move forward, we need to make sure we need to tick that box internally. So it's not for you if you miss the champion. If you can help me with that, I need it in order to move on in the process.
At what point do you do this? At what point of the sales stage?
At the point that I feel that champion is strong enough and he has access to authority.
Post demo?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Post value proposition. Post, he's convinced. I have someone who's willing to move mountains internally. So it's a lot way after. If it's in the prospecting stage, it's a different story, how to get to other stakeholders. And that's easy.
How?
I will call low-level people. They will help me map out the dynamics internally quickly. So let's say that I'm speaking with the project manager, and I need to understand who is the regional lead and who is the operation director and so forth. I'll call someone from the site. I'll call one of the superintendents, or you can find the equivalent to different industries, but I will call someone definitely low level because they like to speak. And I will let them know that there is an active process and I'm speaking with James and Moore and Ofir. And I'm just wondering, maybe they know the dynamic. I mean, who's reporting to who I should speak with, who might be felt left out, this famous question, by not involving them in this process. And this is how you get the names.
Do you feel, are you not concerned that you're going behind the prospect's back by doing this?
I'll always be transparent about that.
So how would you say that?
Yeah, I will always be transparent about that. And also let them know that I'm going to let them know that I called you. So definitely, obviously, there are some cases where people weren't happy with that. So
yeah, so you'll say, let's say I'm the main, yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, no, you got the point.
Yeah, but so let's just say I'm the prospect, right? You're prospecting me. I'm going to be your champion, whatever it is. And then you want to go to my like some superintendent within the company. You're going to come to me and be like, hey, Moore, just letting you know that I'm reaching out to so-and-so in your company because I want to get more feedback. Is that cool? Question mark.
I would do it after because I prefer to say, I won't block the act. I want to do that. And then if you don't like the idea, I will definitely stop. But I will call my SDR, BDR, and say, hey, I'm speaking with Moore, but I'm really curious who's Moore reporting to and who's his colleagues. How about you do a few calls? Be very sensitive with the information. Let them know that we're speaking with Moore, and he's been very helpful up until now. So I'm trying to really build it up. So if they call you, they will say, listen, he said only good things, and it was very, very nice over the phone. He didn't push me to provide any information. So I'm trying to protect myself. And then when coming back, when I will call you again, I will say, hey, more, I've spoken with James, and he mentioned that Miles should be involved in this. Are you guys working together and trying to do the discovery with you? Like, I don't know.
Has it ever come back where you had like your SDRs do a little bit of reconnaissance, and then in the background, and then you spoke to your champion, and then they're like, hey,
They didn't like it.
Why are your people calling my people? We never talked about doing that.
Absolutely. Many times. And it's not a bridge in the relationship. It's not killing the deal. Be 100% sure about it.
What did you respond to that?
My response will be, hey, we're not going to speak with anyone else unless you give us direct permission. Actually, I need you. I will say to the prospect, I need you to help me with that. So let's do it together. Let me know who else should be involved, and that's we'll equip you with all the information you need so that we can reach out to them and involve them. Because from my experience, in many cases, you need to teach your buyer about how to buy your software. Mm-hmm. People tend to forget that these are not professional software buyers. So you need to teach them how to buy your software. Your software is different than others. And you say, these are the people that usually get involved at these stages. We're about to get to this stage. How about we loop them in? And you're absolutely right. No one is going to contact them. So I'm going to update the BDRs.
Do you ever get them like, because once it's not like you said, it may not be burning a bridge, but it may leave a sort of bad taste in their mouth, like, oh, they went behind my back. Or you're telling me I'm not going to contact, but I wonder the dynamic of how the prospects, most of the time they're just like, yeah, okay, I appreciate that. Yeah, you should contact this person or this person. Or do they say, I'll handle it from here, Ofir? Like,
it's a calculated risk. And standing here and saying, yeah, it never happened, I can overcome. Yeah, definitely kill deals in the past, especially when I was younger, by being all over, by doing active multi-threading on multiple channels, sure, multiple levels, multiple departments. That's a calculated risk, but I prefer. By the way, it's also a quick way to disqualify. If you see that you're not getting access to the right people at the right time, good, move on. You don't have business there, or this is not the right champion. And it happened to me as well, by the way. I switched champions in an account, and then the other champion that we found was the right and the relevant one. People will hide their lack of authority or power in making a decision. So they will try to centralize everything for themselves. And I know that we're a little bit off topic, but that's important.
Yeah. Well, how did you switch champions? What did you do to realize that there's a different champion, or reach out to like what was the actual? Was it like, all right, let's go back to their LinkedIn account and see who else is in the company, and then reach out to them and say, hey, I've been talking to so-and-so, and based on our conversation, it seems like you'd be the right person to speak to. Would that be the approach?
Yeah, it really depends on, how the relationship ended, but I would try to keep all doors open, and I will never take something personal and being offended by, someone being very mad about us doing something specific. I can also bring up the fact that, we are in sales, and it's okay that the BDR is calling. It's a big organization. Usually when we speak with companies, we reach out to multiple people, not only yourself. If you want everything to go through you, I'm absolutely fine with that. But I'm not saying, but you have to prove me that you're capable of doing it. So that's what I'm expecting from them. I'm being very direct, but also being, empathic and good listener to what
are you dealing at BuildDots? Are you dealing with American clientele? Are you dealing with over like Europe and APAC and Israeli clientele?
So we have customers all over the world. We have people the East Coast, West Coast, Canada, and UK, the Nordics, Germany, France, and obviously Israel. So
the reason why I ask is with Israelis you can be way more direct, and they'll you're speaking their language, but with Americans they may take offense to it. And some of them will respect it. Some of them will, clam up and shut down.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Cool.
I know it's very much depends on the relationship you have with the person. Don't do it too early, because that's definitely burning a bridge.
So as a recap, objection handling, whether it's, hey, we see the value of this, but we're going to hold off on it till next quarter, or hey, we don't have the budget. Regardless of the objection, the goal is to. The tactic is validate their concern. Don't negate it. Don't make them feel like you're separated. You're on the same team. Like, yeah, I totally get it. Bring up a customer story or case study. Use silence to let them maybe talk, and if they don't talk, get their feedback by asking. So
that's the felt part, right? It's not
Yeah.
the first time I'm hearing that, and let them know that they're not alone. Yeah.
Yeah.
So we have the feel, the felt, and then the found. Found is where you're taking control.
I think it's important, though. At least when I got into sales, I was taught that the point of the objection is to overcome it and then pull them back in to try to make the sale. But it sounds like by doing it this way, there is obviously some amount of probability that you're not going to close the sale, but you need to understand if it's really an objection or a condition. A condition could be like, hey, we were supposed to launch this project, but the person that was in charge of that died. That's a condition. You're not going to, that now is going to stall everything. So I think it's important that the whole goal of objection handling is really just to understand what's the true intent behind it. And maybe there's a concern that you can fix. If it's a budget thing, that you can work on price, on flexible plans. If it's hey, we have other priorities right now, maybe you can, I don't know. So that's what it sounds like.
Other priorities is a matter of value didn't perceive or relationship. I'm not convinced that you're the person, this is the company I want to buy from. And objections are usually, I won't speak about the cliche, right? It's an opportunity, they share with you, friction is good for progress and so forth. But today, objections are not necessarily just, as you said, winning them, overcoming and pulling them back. I'm not believing that in the last part, like pulling them back. Win this objection, give them all the information you need, be empathic, humanize your approach and so forth. Let it sink, right? Let them work that out and then come back to you and staying back on track. And overcoming objection is hard. This is why there are very few people who can do it very successfully. And these are the people that really know how to go for the close, the close.
Yeah. Cool. We are out of time. So any last tips, or if you want to just like tell people where, whatever you want to do, either leave people with a tip, or if not, then tell people where they can find you.
Sure thing. I think the only tip that I will take is that 2023 and years forward might be very different than what we used to do. Sales is constantly changing, so is we. We have to adapt our tactics and strategy, keep on learning, keep on educating yourself, stay involved. You can always hit me up. I'm on LinkedIn, goes by Ofir Zan, and I will be happy to meet more sales professionals. Thank you so much.
Yeah, I'll drop your LinkedIn on the description of this episode.
Awesome.
Okay.